Welcome back to Dry Arabia for another casted game. And this time we are back with Nightmeh in the orange as the Order of the Dragon on his quest to make this D-tier civilization all the way to Conqueror. And on the north side of Dry Arabia, we have a Mongol player in the teal. So let's see what both of these guys are doing then. So we can see the Uvu is just going up there. Nice. And we're just going to be waiting now to see whether we see a barracks going up, potentially for the classic Mongol tower rush. So we're getting a lot of wood here, so potentially that could be the case. If we take a little look at Nightmeh's side, he is predicting this tower rush and he's going for that early barracks to get some of those gilded spears out to defend, because the Order of the Dragon really like to get that gold and to potentially go out onto hunts and things like that. So having some of those units, I think, could potentially work out quite nicely for him. If we check out the scouting path then for both of these guys, we can see that Nightmeh is doing what you should be doing against a Mongol player, which is scouting the Uvu. And now we can see here that there's no barracks going up, and as we said that, there was a barracks and then it's been dropped. So whether Nightmeh caught that or he thinks the barracks is being constructed, that's going to be the thing. He's already got a defensive barracks up at the moment with no spears coming out, so he is ready to go when it goes. Let's head over to our Mongol friend, who is just literally going around and getting all of the sheep. So this, I think, kind of makes me think that he's not going to go for a tower rush, because usually what you would find is, yeah, you'd scout the resources and then you would hang around ready for the spears and the villagers to pop over, but there's no spears gone up yet. And if we have a look at his base, that barracks has gone down and actually we've gone for pastures, so it looks like it's going to be a standard feudal age from him. Talking about this matchup then, so without the early tower rush, this is actually going to give the Order of the Dragon a little bit of time to get set up, because their villagers produce slightly slower, they gather obviously more effectively, but they do take a little time to get on, get everything going, get it all kicked off, and so that's going to allow Nightmeh to do that. The Mongols, though, with the changes to some of those units, potentially can do some interesting stuff just by rushing Keshiks and Mangadai, or whatever it is they decide to do. So they're probably going to be getting close to the feudal age at very similar times, and it'll be interesting to see what landmarks we go with. Looking at the spawn here for Nightmeh, I would imagine we're going to be seeing a mine work, because there's not a particularly good Archon anywhere. Maybe one here that could just about touch the gold and maybe a tiny bit of the wood. And there's no point really putting it here, that's not worth it. So I expect also having a barracks, probably mine work would make sense with the golden cuirass. So we can see that going up with 3 villagers. And if we head over to Mongol friend, we can see he's just about to go up and he's going for silver tree. So we're going to be seeing some trade, boys. So this is now what we're going to have to see, whether Nightmeh is going to be able to deny that trade or whether that trade boom is really going to kick off, because that's where I think it's going to be a real problem for him. And the problem with the Order of the Dragon as well is that because they are limited with the number of units they can produce, because they are more expensive, they take longer, it's going to be much harder to mass up and really fight the trade if he's being pushed in his base. So I think this is not the best matchup for him. Also, going out on this deer is a good idea. So I think that's going to be very, very good for his economy. You often see Order of the Dragon players doing this immediately in the Dark Age, but with it being the Mongols and potentially expecting that tower rush, which never came, going for those immediately is not particularly safe, because spears can go out there and just get your villagers. So then what are we going to be expecting? Let's head over here. Are we going to see any production buildings dropped around the Uvu? That's really going to give us a clue of what's going on. And where are we going to be seeing the silver tree going? So looking at the market spawns, it's actually not really ideal for trade, because it's actually behind both players' bases. So I imagine the silver tree probably would go maybe down into this corner, into the west corner, maybe over here to get like a 3/4 line. So if we take a little look, it looks like it's going that way. That makes sense. A nice little tower on the goal there to defend any potential shenanigans from Nightmeh. And if we head over to his side, we can see a stable being dropped. So this is going to be really nice. Some of those gilded horsemen going to be going out to try and get that trade. We see Wheelbarrow going in for him, and all of the eco upgrades for Order of the Dragon are way better value, way better for you, because they work off your base gather rate. So Wheelbarrow is kind of the exception, I guess, but all of the other ones, double broadaxe, horticulture, survival techniques, you actually get way more value from them as Order of the Dragon, so you definitely want to be seeing those going in as early as possible. I'm not so much a fan of this long distance wood gathering, whether he knows that's happening as of yet while he's focusing on other things, but we can see a house going down over here, and the stables is up with a gilded horseman coming out. There we go, and we've got the lumber camp coming up as well, so no more long distance wood gathering. So the silver tree is making its way over, and it looks like, if we take a little look over at Nightmeh, he was fighting that he was attacking the landmark with his scouts, so he does know where it's going, so we should be seeing the horsemen heading over once he's finished chasing the Khan. So there we go. But looking at, look at this damage that it does. Every time it's going to get a little hit, that's going to do some crazy damage. Look at that. So one more hit and the Khan is going to go down, which just... that is a huge loss for our Mongol friend there, because the Khan, that's going to be dangerous. Double produced Keshiks, that's the only reason you would see two of them together. So we're going to be seeing Keshik archers, which is the classic combination for the Mongols, and so we're going to just be seeing, I guess, lots of horsemen from Nightmeh at this stage. We are going to be seeing as well lots of trade potentially, but no traders in queue yet. So whether he's focusing on producing his military first, we'll have to wait and see. So the horsemen going out there and the scout going around to see what's going on. But looking down here, these Keshiks are going to find a bit of damage, and look at that hit there, really strong. And this is something I always find a little bit strange. I don't know if you guys noticed this as well. The Keshik charged one villager and then started attacking with its standard melee attack on another villager, which never really makes sense to me, because you really want to get the charge and the hit on the same villager, because then you're more likely to take them out. If they weren't gilded villagers with the extra health, then that could have been one villager kill at that stage. So I don't know whether that's an AI thing or whether that's a me thing, but always something interesting to keep an eye on. So these gilded horsemen now are really starting to pack a punch, and the Keshiks should be able to trade fairly well, but you're going to need a lot more of them. They do heal up, but these guys just hit so hard, so that's going to be really dangerous. And if they get anywhere near those Mongol archers, they are going to be in real trouble. There is a horseman up here torching the landmark slowly and guarding it, and still no traders in queue, so not sure whether the silver tree in this case was actually the best idea. If you weren't going to be going for trade, maybe the deer stones would have been better to increase movement speed of all your units, but a nice little Keshik raid on the bottom there going for those villagers. And we can see now on the top side more Keshiks coming in, and one of those gilded spearmen there waiting to get a hit off. Are they going to get it? Look at the damage on that. Just one little hit and now that's half health. So this is where you've got to be really careful against Order of the Dragon, because their units pack a punch. These two horsemen and one spear is actually the equivalent of 4 horses and 2 spears, so that's a really big force to be going up against with just 3 Keshiks. We can see now that we've got mine work pumping, we've got those upgrades coming in. No golden cuirass at the moment because there's no men at arms, but there we go. So that's another Keshik gone down, and the numbers are starting to build up for the Mongol player, but if you see, when you look at the population of the military, it's still looking in Nightmeh's favour. So now both players looking like they're going to be trying to raid each other at the same time to do damage. And we've got our first trader which has gone down, so really denying that trade in a fantastic way there from Nightmeh. But traders in queue going to be coming out, and if you can stop them getting to that market, that's just a huge loss of economy. So we can see the Mongol units are starting to mass up, and these ecotechs are slowly trickling in now for Nightmeh, which is going to be boosting his economy very, very nicely. We can see these nice load of spears, 3 gilded spears over here, and I just want to admire how good they look in formation there, and I really hope they make some contact with Keshiks, because you absolutely love to see it. So now these guys taking out another Keshik at the top and heading back over to the trade. So there we go, these archers trying to get some damage on there. Are there any horsemen at home? It doesn't look like it, but we do see a gilded archer now, so we're going to have some counter archers going in, and the fire rate on these guys is absolutely insane. So if we look at the standard archers, they can attack every 1.62 seconds. If we look at the gilded archer, which is here, they attack every 1 second, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like, I'm not going to do the maths, but it's significantly quicker, and they do a lot more damage. So 7 per shot, and they shoot every second. That's crazy. That's a crazy amount of damage. The horsemen, they're doing an amazing job of pulling those units away from his base, and so now the trade is starting to kick off in the background, but also Nightmeh's base is nice and secure. So the Khan buffing these guys up and trying to take out these horses, and Nightmeh really doesn't want to lose these 3 of these guys quite low health, and this is where potentially this could be a real problem, because losing these 3 units is a huge loss. It's way more than losing 1 Keshik, so definitely wants to get these guys home and safe away from danger, massed up with all of his other units. So if we take a look while we're doing this over at the Mongol base, we can see we've got 4 production buildings all around the Uvu, pumping out some double production when he's got enough stone. We can see very heavily on the gold with all those units defending. So whether we're going to be seeing this is just for the trade boom. If we take a little look so far, we've only got 3 traders, so we are going to need to see more of those pumping if he wants to get that huge boom going off. But these units are being very mobile and very risky. Are they going to get caught now? The Keshik's coming in, and I think this last one on the end, 7 health, if they can target that down with the Khan's arrow shots and get 1 Keshik on that, that's going to be really bad time there for Nightmeh. No walls as of yet for either player. Obviously Mongols don't get them, but Nightmeh building a couple of farms, and although it's usually a lot of investment to build early farms because of the gathering rate from the Order of the Dragon, these are actually really good value. So as long as you don't suddenly add in 15 farms at this stage, then it's usually pretty good. But are the Keshiks going to make some contact here? Potentially. The Khan signaling to them before they get in. That's a real shame. If those Keshiks had got in that wood line, they could have done a huge amount of damage. 1 spear being pulled there, and I think he's going to get caught, but is he going to get... almost 1 Keshik going down, and all the reinforcement spears coming across. And so while they're chasing the Khan, we can also see the horsemen on the top side are going back for that trade. So those guys are not going to last long with 90 health. Look how quickly they get taken out. It's an absolute massacre over there on the trade line, and the other one's just walking straight into them. So whether the Mongol player realizes this and can pull them away to safety, I think that's another load down. And if we check now, we're back down to 3 traders, and they're all going to be coming back over now towards the horsemen, so these guys are going to be able to stop all of that. And back on this side, okay, more Keshiks now out on the deer pack, and some men-at-arms finally here to tank up some of that Keshik damage, as well as archers. So we're going for the full triple comp. Every single unit we can have from the gilded arsenal, and the archers taking out the wolf there to protect the villagers. Big clash up here with the Keshiks, and Nightmeh doing a really good job of pulling away and keeping those guys alive. But with that arrow speed bonus, they are going to be able to catch up and probably take out that back one. So that's 1 down so far, and there's another one in danger over on the top line. And are they going to get caught out by the market? Just scooting around there. So this is really nice work here from Nightmeh. He's pulling these units, so all of these guys aren't raiding his base, and that's allowing him all this time to get set up. So we can also see in the center that there's more Keshiks coming along, very heavy into Keshiks at the moment, and both players just missing each other there. So if this wall doesn't come up, it's going to be a real problem for Nightmeh, because he's got nothing at home to defend. A couple of units here and there. So trying to pull his horsemen and his units together up here, and he's going to converge right on this deer pack. So this could potentially be a huge amount of damage now against the Mongol player. So horseman coming in, he's going to realise, but only 5 garrison slots for his villagers there. Spears coming to stop the Keshiks, and now those villagers are on the run. Focusing on that tower, where I probably would want to send a couple of guys over there, but on the backside, the Keshiks made it into the wood line. Oh dear. So only 2 villagers down, 3 villagers down now, and only a couple of spears at home to defend. This is a lot of idle time now, and we can see on the top side though, 10 villagers down, 11 down, and a 12th one down, and now the army is pulling together, and this potentially could be quite dangerous if we can't protect these spears and men-at-arms. So Really want to be making sure that this archer mass doesn't catch up to these spears and protect the spears. Oh no, those guys are going to be going down very, very quickly now, and all of the horsemen have run away. Please no, circle back round. Oh dear. Okay, so this is really a dangerous spot now, but we do see an age up coming through for Nightmeh now. We see the Burgrave Palace coming up in the background. Here we go. So we're going to see a lot of units printing out. You don't often see the Burgrave. A lot of players don't think it's fantastic value because it's gives you lots of food back because most of the units are very, very food heavy. But if you can get relics, the Regnitz is actually way more eco value per minute if you look at the numbers that way. But at this stage, when you're about to get outmassed, being able to print Landsknecht and Men-at-Arms is actually really, really decent. So we can see we've got all of the upgrades. No Golden Cuirass, but with only 2 Men-at-Arms that were here, that's probably not worth it. And we can see this wall going up, but these units are going to catch that villager while he's building the wall. Is it going to quick wall it up? No, and they're going to get straight through now. So this is going to be a base dive now as the age up is coming through with some more ecotechs, and the Golden Cuirass is finally in. So let's see, but not pushing. I expected him to really dive the wood line there, but there's no villagers there, and the Keshiks are going in to try and get the army, but are they going to get any damage? Let's wait and see. So let's pull the interface away and we can go straight into this fight. So now this is all going to be about the micro here for Nightmeh, whether he's able to avoid losing his spears to the archers and whether he can get some horsemen onto those archers to do some damage. That's really going to be the problem. One of these horsemen would really start wiping these guys out. Keshik numbers really starting to go down now. The spears catching a lot of those ones off guard, and now the horsemen turning their attention to the archers, and look at those guys go. It's absolute insanity, and these archers, look how quickly they're firing in comparison. So they are going down, and the units are starting to look very few and far between for Nightmeh at this stage, but another Keshik down, 2 Keshiks down, and that is a huge amount of value. So if we go out now, look at the value damage here. This is actually really important in this matchup because it might not seem the same when you've got so many more numbers around here, but the value is crazy. So we are in the castle age now, and where is our Burgrave? It's at the back, so printing some men-at-arms as you would expect from a HRE variant, and we've got the Golden Cuirass, so now those guys are going to be significantly cheaper. If you see they're 140 and 28, if we go over to the barracks, they are 240, so you save a huge amount of food, which means you can actually pump a lot more. We hopefully are going to be seeing a monastery going down soon to get some of those relics, while our Mongol friend isn't in the castle age. It's always a good idea to get those. Taking a little look at the trade line, the Conga is really starting to go now. We've got 12 traders and 3 more in queue, so this eco is really going to start kicking off now for our Mongol friend, and he's going to have to think about doing some damage, but with all these units roaming around, it potentially could be dangerous. So it looks like the Keshiks are going around now to find some damage and also protect the trade. We can see 1 men-at-arms, a sole men-at-arms running up the top there to try and put a stop to the trade, while these Keshiks come in for another raid down on the south side. So this eastern side completely open at the base so far, and we did just hear a prelate coming out from wherever that monastery is hiding, and we can see as well on the backside some really nice little mini walls here to protect this food and to protect this relic. So if he needs to run away and hide from the raids, then that's a good idea, because this is a huge wall that you need to put down this side. I would be expecting that soon we're going to see a wall straight across here to get the boar and maybe that stone as well, but we can see the Keshik circling around and trying to catch that prelate. Is he going to get out of there alive? Is he going to run quick through the door, mate? Through the door, and he made it. There we go, really nicely done. And I don't know if any of you guys remember when the doors, if you place them the wrong way, the other guys' units could run through. At least we don't have to worry about shenanigans like that now. We can see a men-at-arms being chased down by 21 archers, but look at the amount of damage that he's taking. If you look at his health, it's going down, but 21 archers firing, and now the Golden Cuirass is activated, and it's going to be taking even less damage. So he's not getting a kill on these traders, really wants to be focusing on one of those, but that's a huge amount of damage he just tanked on his own there. The Kurultai going up, we can see that one is popped up, and we're in the castle age. So let's click over to eco, and we can see how these two guys compare. We've got the infantry mass. There's a, a handful of units, but they're gilded units, and that's what's important. So they're coming up, and they're going to meet these archers, but I don't think this is the right composition. These men-at-arms, are they going to be able to do enough damage before the spears are taken out? And the spears meeting the Keshiks, oh, that's fantastic work there, and really unfortunate for those Keshiks just running straight into those spears. It reminds me of all of my own cavalry. But these spears are out of position, and if those Keshiks get on those archers, they are going to go down very, very quickly. But look at that damage. These men-at-arms are just so tanky. So we need to be seeing some crossbows coming up really, really soon. Otherwise, this is going to be a real danger zone for our Mongol friend, because look, this one man-at-arms is keeping all of these archers completely busy. It looks like the Kurultai may be coming over to assist in this case, but that's another unit down. And if we've got another attack warning over here, so a prelate trying to take it with a Keshik attacking on that side, and we've got some spearmen coming up here to idle these villagers on the other, while there's also a crossbowman that's coming to attack the base. So chaos everywhere, and this prelate has made it, and he's actually being cheeky and going for that top relic up there. Really nicely done. And we can see another one coming up. So one relic in the bag, two more being picked up, and the central one is being guarded here by a veteran Keshik, but a couple of gilded spears will be able to put a stop to that. We can see these spearmen getting caught out now by these archers. We're definitely going to need something to take out this archer mass, especially now that we're going to be seeing crossbows added into the mix. But looking at this, the archers still getting value on those villagers. 16 villagers down now. But if we look at the economy, it actually looks a little bit better on the Mongol side, because he has gone for 2 TC, so we didn't see that being dropped. So where is the other TC? That's the first one, and we must be no, the other economy units are the traders, obviously, dum-dum. So we can see the infantry coming in now, and if we check out the traders, we got 22 traders. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So now, this is where it's going to be really vital for both of these players to play it correctly, because the Mongol player needs to be massing up these units, needs to get a huge mass, potentially needs to look at maybe getting some siege, and the Nightmeh needs to be focusing on getting as many of these relics as possible, which he's doing fantastically well at the moment, and needs to be making sure that he's massing up these units and not letting them die, because unfortunately at the moment these spears are just getting shot down, and they are very, very expensive, even with Burgrave. So I would be expecting that we're going to be seeing more infantry units in queue, because we do have the Burgrave, but we can see now that this prelate is going to get caught out by these Keshiks. One hit from him, and that's another relic down on the ground. But so now the numbers looking pretty scary, these range units coming in. If we take a little look over at the base, we are massing up here. No gilded knights at this stage, which I think is the right call, because they are so expensive. If one gilded knight is nearly 500 resources, is absolutely insane. So yeah, I definitely think this is the right choice, and we can see some gilded crossbows, which are also incredible. They have actually extended range, and also really good base damage as well. So against those Keshiks, they'll be doing 35 a shot, and they have much more range, so they'll be able to do more. So we can see another load of men-at-arms going up to disrupt the trade and hit some of those villagers. We've got military academy coming in, so the Mongol player is going to be able to produce those units even more quickly, and an absolute ton of Keshiks in queue. So hopefully we see crossbows and spears coming out for Nightmeh at this stage. A big farm transition going in, and this is going to really boost up that food economy, which was lagging a little bit behind. At the moment, the gold is really starting to kick off, and we can see now Kurultai in front of the base, some siege going down, some rams, and they're trying to burn down this wall. So now, how is Nightmeh going to respond? The military numbers looking like a little higher, but obviously in terms of quantity, it's actually less. So they are going to be taking more damage per unit, so that's always something to remember. We can see the wall is down, and these units are coming in formation. Really nicely done. The prelate is going to try out and sneak a relic. Always love to see this. And the Kurultai coming to drop right in the base there. We can see the blueprint coming up. And as it's slowly going over, we can see the men-at-arms here watching the trade go by and not doing any damage. Come on guys, get in there, do some damage. But the Kurultai is just about to go in. No units come up here to block it, but we do have a relic in the outpost with a springald emplacement, so that's going to do a lot of damage there. We can also see the horsemen in a really nice position round the back. Are they going to be able to catch those reinforcements? I think this is actually going to be really clever if they get away with it. So are we going to see? So we've got a ram coming in to try and do some damage now. We've got some more springled emplacements coming in for the other front towers, the classic HRE Order of the Dragon strat, and units popping out. And this is one of those times where Nightmeh's going to need a lot more production to make sure that he's going to be able to mass up those units. So that ram now being out of position, it's going to get caught out by those infantry, and now trying to use the ram as bait. I'm not sure whether that's going to work. We can see that the mangonels being healed up there, and let's see, that ram is going to go down, and now the big fight commences under the Kurultai. So this is potentially not ideal for both players. Some horsemen coming in the back there, really nicely done, are going to be able to get on that archer mass and do some huge damage. So in one way, this isn't good for the Mongol player being sat under those springle towers taking that damage, but the Kurultai is, with that healing buff, is making this a really, really good trade. But looking at the speed of these crossbows and these archers, that's really doing a huge amount of damage. The numbers starting to go down now, and some of the Keshiks getting in. Are they going to be able to get some damage? Not quite, but there is a chop through, so we want to be really careful that they don't use the new door that's being created over here. So no siege now, all of that being taken out. Another ram being built as we speak, and more units being built. So if we bring the interface up, we can see how those units compare. So far we've got only a couple of production buildings, so these units are going to take a little while to come, but Nightmeh doing a really good job of spending his food and starting to mass up gold there. So I hope we're not going to be seeing an Imperial Age just yet, because I think this mob here would have something to say about it. On the top side, the men-at-arms still watching the trade. Come on, guys. Don't get lazy. There we go. We want to see some damage going on. 30 traders coming up, so now this gold eco is really going to start popping off. Another ram coming through to try and get damage on those production buildings, and it's going to be taking out very quickly. So another load of resources going down for the Mongol player. So Prelate coming out to try and heal these units, and this is something that I think Order of the Dragon players need to use a lot of, because if you can keep these units alive longer, the value they get is absolutely insane. So now the Keshiks are going to be taken out very quickly by these crossbows and the spears, men-at-arms to tank up the damage, and horsemen to go after the ranged units. So this is where now these gilded units in the defensive base are starting to really whittle down those Mongol numbers, those Keshik numbers going down, and look how quickly they're melting. Prelate's still alive, somehow in the middle of that massacre, and now this is looking quite dangerous. We can see a Treb going up now, which is going to try and take that out, but Order of the Dragon does have the emergency repairs, so that's going to be really, really useful, and so now this is going to be see how they tackle it. We can see on the top side there's some Keshiks against these men-at-arms to try and protect the trade. We're up to only 17, so a load of those traders have been taken down, and then another big fight coming up here with the crossbows drawing them in. Emergency repairs on the production building, really, really nicely done. Also, we don't have many archers at the moment, but I love this scale armor upgrade. It just makes those archers in the Castle Age just absolutely insane. Treb going up now to try and do some damage on these, and a couple of horsemen circling around to try and get on the Treb. And is he going to notice this circle around at the moment? Keshik's going down, being absolutely destroyed. Springle at the front, going to take out these Mango, because that's what you've got to be careful of. Don't take... Ooh, nice dodge there. And the horsemen going around to get that Mango. So that is now siege done. And the horsemen, are they going to focus on the Trebs? There we go. So this is now absolute carnage, and that circle around has really done it, and they have no front line left, only archers, and those gilded horsemen are going to be able to put a stop to that very quickly. The crossbows focusing on the Kurultai by mistake. I don't think that's the intended target at this stage, but now the Mongol forces looking very, very depleted. Men-at-arms still in the trader line at the back, doing a huge amount of damage. There's still 20 traders now when they were at 30, so that's a huge loss, and you can see the gold eco is really starting to drop now for our Mongol friend. We can see the Kurultai is trying to get away, but a nice little circle around by the crossbows. Not the military units you'd want to try and stop it, but now there we go, it's trapped. Brilliant circle around, so it's just going to be able to be slowly whittled down, and now that landmark buff is going to be no more. We can see some stone being gathered up over here already, so we're probably going to be seeing a keep dropped somewhere. I imagine maybe on the sacred site to try and push that, but we do also... No, on the stone at the top. Okay, so we're going for that. We can see units coming over now to try and put a stop to that. That landmark is destroyed, even though it's wiggling around and twitching for some reason. And now we can see, if we take that interface off, we can see the power of these crossbows. Like, look how much damage they're doing together. The overkill is absolutely huge, but the numbers now are fairly even between both players, which means that our Mongol friend is in a lot of trouble. Some villagers being caught out of position here. I don't think they meant to join the fight, and they are going to be going down very, very quickly. So 38 villagers have gone down now, 39, and this is real carnage. So we can see also there's some more units around the front starting to mass up. A ram going up, I imagine, to go and get the silver tree, and now the Mongol player being pushed back into his base, and no units in queue at this stage, no food as of yet, and selling a load of gold to try and get that food. So this is now where he needs to be getting those units out, otherwise though this gilded mass is really going to start doing some damage. Very heavily on the wood at the moment, so we might be seeing a farm transition at some point soon. And if we take a look at the trade so far, 20 traders, so this is not increasing, and the food eco is very, very slow, so down to 300 a minute compared to Nightmeh's 2000, and these units just continue to be pumping. This Burgrave is absolutely getting a huge amount of value. Only 3 relics for Nightmeh, which is still very respectable. The eco will be really good, and going for a big push into the base now. This is going to be absolutely huge, but can he hold? Blocking the Kurultai placement with those crossbows, and the horsemen coming in to clean up those archers, and the crossbows getting the Keshiks. And our Mongol friend taps out with that. The gilded mass pulls through, and a huge amount of damage on the trade line just meant there was nowhere for our Mongol friend to go. Here we are then, just before GG was called, to take a look at the final state of play as those gilded units dive into the Mongol base and cause lots of mayhem. So let's zoom out, bring up the interface and give it a cheeky pause, and we can take a little look at what happened. So this match, definitely the turning point was this big base fight over here where Nightmeh was able to defend really, really well to hold those units and continue to mass them up, and was able to do a really nice little circle around. And it was only small, but a couple of horsemen just running around this wood line and catching all the siege unprotected at the back, those trebs and the mangonel, and then catching the archers at the back as well, just meant that all of his units were fighting exactly the right units and doing a huge amount of damage. So the horsemen getting the range, those crossbows getting the Keshiks, and then because of that, the mass then was unbeatable for the Mongol player. Also, unfortunately, just as he lost this big fight, he also ran out of food on the map, and so his food eco dropped basically down to 0, and he didn't have any real farm set up at all. So if we take a little look at his base, he's got tons and tons of trade, of course. The deer have just run out. There's maybe one little bit over here, and that's basically it. So there's a lot of these pastures, not the farms obviously, but there's a lot of sheep here, but you can see these are being dropped down like crazy because they weren't set up in time. So all of these have been dropped since that huge fight. So that obviously has meant that the food eco disappeared, and these military numbers couldn't then come back up and compete. Even with the very good wood and the gold eco, it's sort of just, when you can't mass up against those gilded units, then they can just overwhelm your small numbers. If we take a look on the flip side at Nightmeh's base, he was very gradually adding in these farms around his TC, and then did quite a big transition over here. He's also got farms over here, so he did really well at collecting those. He didn't get too greedy trying to go for like the hunt, but he has moved out onto this gold as well. So I do think maybe potentially just walling off this right hand side probably could have worked really nicely. Maybe a little short wall to the stone and across this way. It's not really short, it's walling off half the map, but yeah, doing something like that, especially when you've got the resources to drop a keep, you know, that could have been closed off, and then this would mean raiding wasn't so much of a problem. But because the fight was all centered in that one area, raiding didn't end up being that much of a problem. We can see nearly all of the eco techs have gone in for Nightmeh, which is why his food economy is absolutely crazy at this stage, and he's also gone for the majority of his military tech. effects. You will notice, or you should notice, that most of the time you want to be going for your armor upgrades first with Order of the Dragon, because you have less units. They're actually better value than the damage ones, except the range damage is always just amazing because those archers are just crazy. So if we also take a little look at the setup, Burgrave was pumping very well, and with it only being 3 relics, the difference of economy is pretty even, and with all of this food, switching to Landsknecht actually could be really strong because these guys absolutely slap. We can see that the Mongol player is trying to take the sacred sites as well, so that's really good to force the fight into different locations. The central one was also taken, but I think not being able to do as much damage in this fight and allowing the production to keep producing those gilded units, and the two circle arounds, there were actually 2 in those big fights where they came around and really did some damage to the siege at the back, really turned the tide, and then the golden wave was then unavoidable. So I think a really good play from Nightmeh, and showing how Order of the Dragon can be super strong if you can manage to get the units out and defend when you need to. But a fantastic play, a really interesting match, and I'm going to leave you now with the Mongol forces being shown the might of the Gilded Empire. But I hope you've enjoyed this one, and if you want me to cast one of your games, remember to comment on the video with the details, and I'll see you next time for some more Age of Empires action.